Hey, my name is Daniel Audunsson, and you're in for a real treat because in this presentation, I'm going to show you how to scale your private label business on Amazon using predictable systems instead of hustle and gimmicks. Now, the problem for many sellers is this. So we have business number one. This is the common problem. The growth of the business happens and then it fades out, and eventually the business actually goes into decline. Versus this is a scenario that you want. Business number two, you have more of this exponential growth curve. So it might take you a little bit of time to get going, but eventually the business starts to really fly and take off and do better and better and better. And it's sustainable and it doesn't stop. Now the difference in results is obvious, right? But what is the root cause? What is the reason, the real reason for either this happening or this? What is the difference? Because I'm sure you've seen businesses that are like number two, and you've also seen businesses like number one, and maybe you've even experienced that yourself. So again, my name is Daniel Audunsson, and I've been a top seller on Amazon since 2012. And in this presentation, I'll show you how to scale your private label business on Amazon using predictable systems instead of hustle and gimmicks, which is what most sellers do. So here's what you'll discover: why most sellers fall into one of three deadly traps when scaling their business, and what those three traps are, how to build a predictable business with systems that can grow without issues, and exactly what this looks like, and the real key to unleash the heavens of scale in an Amazon private label business. And this is not what you think. Now, you might be asking, why should you listen to me? So again, I've been a seller since 2012, and I've actually sold hundreds of products on Amazon. I've generated 8 figures in sales, and I've also built multiple offices, and I've had teams with more than 50 people in an office, and I've also taught thousands of sellers how to do this business successfully. And I've spoken on stages in front of hundreds of people, and so I've sort of seen every side of this, and I have some unique perspectives and insights that I've learned. And I've really been through the ringers on scaling an Amazon private label business specifically. So I started here, number one, in a bedroom at my parents' farm in Iceland, where I'm from, where I was born and raised. And I started with a few $100s, literally. That was, I was a student. I didn't have anything. I didn't know anyone that did this successfully. And this was really before private labeling on Amazon became a big thing. Now, in a matter of about a year since I started, I went to China and the Philippines, and I eventually set up an office in the Philippines, actually pretty early on, which I then grew to 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, and eventually all the way to about 50 people, which you see on the picture here to the right, or number 3. So I've been through the stages of starting out myself, young kid, at my parents' house with almost nothing to start off with, to actually building a really big business and a big team around the business as well. And more than that, and this is what I'm the most proud of when it comes to what I'm doing here today for you, which is to help other sellers, is that I've got extremely good student results. And I probably have one of the best track records, if not the best, in this industry when it comes to helping other sellers succeed. So I've got some incredible success stories with my students. So again, I'm going to show you how to scale your private label business on Amazon using predictable systems instead of hustle and gimmicks, like marketing gimmicks, because there's a lot of that out there. And I want to show you what actually matters, what actually works in this business if you want to take it seriously and treat it like a true business, which it can be, and it can be a very big and profitable, successful business for you if you treat it like that. Now, the best way for you to learn how to do this, how to actually scale this business up professionally, is to actually do it, brick by brick, every step of the way. So we're going to do something special here in this video, and we're going to do some construction work together, essentially, and we're going to build this business from scratch together here, and so you can see the entire journey and what needs to come together and how it all fits to form a whole, which is your business, that really works and goes exponential. It doesn't break on you, it doesn't decline, it actually can grow and it's sustainable. So I'm gonna put on a helmet, take a hammer, grab a saw, and we're gonna get to work. So let's do it. Now, the first concept I need to explain is the flow of value, right? So this is a core concept, and this is like the core thing, the core formula behind any business. And I want to make sure you're absolutely clear on this before we go and build a business. So the size of the business, or the size of your business, or any business for that matter, is really value times scale, right? So size of business equals value times scale. So what do I mean here? Well, value is the value that your business delivers to others, so like your customers. And then times scale, so this is just how much value and at what kind of scale is this value being delivered. Is it being delivered to a couple of people, or is it being delivered to thousands or tens of thousands of people all the time, every day, things like that. So essentially, the more value you provide and to the more customers you provide it to, the bigger your business. This might seem obvious, but it's so important to have this, in your mind, absolutely clear. This is how it works. This is fundamentally what makes or breaks a business. And so again, the size of your business is the value you provide times the scale. So if you don't provide much value, you're in trouble if you want to grow a big business. It must provide good value. And if you can't scale the value that you provide, so you might be able to provide value, but if you can't provide this value to a lot of people, then you're also in trouble. The size of your business cannot go, it can't become very big, right? So a declining business will usually be a business that has, the value might be going down. The value the business generates might be going down. And sometimes, business starts out generating good value, but then as it grows, the quality of the work, the products, support, different things like that starts to decline. So the value that you're providing is actually going down. And then if you're not able to systematically grow your processes and the work you're doing, so the scale isn't going up, it might actually be going down, then obviously your business is going to decline. So this is the fundamental formula and can be just a very obvious problem that businesses have. Now, a stagnant business is really just value and scale is not increasing, or at least one of these variables. So let's say you're not generating more value in the business, it's the same, right? Or you're not growing, it's just staying the same. So that's a stagnant business, and usually a stagnant business will not be stagnant for very long. It's actually going to become a declining business quickly. The other side of this here is a growing business, right? So this is when the value and the scale at which this value is being delivered are going up. So these two variables are actually increasing and going up in the business. So for example, for us private label sellers on Amazon, the value might be our products. So we have better products, we have more products, a bigger selection, we have more value to offer. And it's not just copy paste me too nonsense. We're actually creating great products and innovating our products, customizing our products, and actually building a business that generates new value for people. Not just one of 100 options that are identical, doesn't provide any value. You actually think about your products, you actually work on your products. So the value that you have to offer goes up. Now, the same thing will happen with the scale of the business. So you actually have a way to sell more products, deliver them to more people, sell them at bigger scale, to more people. And so of each product, you're selling more and more of those, and you're also adding more products. So the scale of what you're doing is going up, and again, the value is also going up. It's not going down. Like your support and stuff is not getting worse, it's actually just getting better as well. So now you have a really powerful fundamental formula in place in your business that will basically logically cause it to grow. It's very simple. Fundamentally, there's no magic, it's just logic. Now you might be asking how, like how do we make this happen? And that's really the big question that I'm going to answer in this presentation. And we're going to do this work together so it really sinks in and it really makes sense for you. So the first thing we're going to do, part one here, is we're going to build the structure. So any business, just like a construction, like a building, must have a foundation. You must have a structure in place, first of all, before you can really build anything big at least. And if you try to build it without a structure, without a foundation, it will eventually crumble and fall, which happens to a lot of businesses. Now, we have one thing here. So basically, we're going to start here with a blank paper, so to speak, and gradually we're going to build something here during this presentation. So this will become a very complete picture for you. But the first thing we've got is value. And again, we call this the flow of value. So this is something that, in the business world, when it comes to systems and processes, this is a pretty common analogy. So it might be familiar to you. But basically we have value, and this is this stream. So you can imagine this is like water streaming down. That's the value in your business. And to start with, you might have one product, and that's, a small stream of value. You're providing some value with this product. Initially, it's one product, and the flow of value, the stream here, the value stream, is relatively small. Now the question is, how do you get this to go bigger? How do you really, how do you take the value? I guess first of all, it's not actually about how do you make this bigger. The first question actually is just how do you take the value that is your product and get it into the hands of other people? Because you might have a product that's valuable, but if it's not a part of a specific business model that you can rinse, repeat to reliably and predictably get this value into the hands and the awareness of other people so they can then exchange this value and provide you money instead of the value, like it's an exchange, then you don't really have a business. So you might have a product that has some value, but without any structure, without any model, like a business model, then you have no way of actually providing the value, and you don't have a business. You don't have a mechanism to do business reliably, predictably, again and again. Right. So that's the first question. What is this? How do we increase the value, and how do we really just make this value start flowing as in a structure, in a systematic way? So that's the first question. And so first, to do this, we need a structure. And we might build this pipe here. So that's the analogy. It's a pipe, right? And we have value which you can envision as like water, going through the pipe. So first you need to put something in place here. So like a pipe, which the value that you've got, which is the product, will flow through and eventually arrive in the hands of a happy customer, right? So at this point, and I'll explain what this means here in just a second. But at this point, you have a value chain, right? You've got a mechanism and a structure to get this value, generated in the form of a product, and then actually into the hands of a customer that is a happy customer because they got great value in exchange for their money, right? So now you've got a well-functioning, value chain, fundamentally speaking. And for us, private label sellers on Amazon, this structure will usually be just that. That is the business model, private labeling and selling the products on Amazon. So this is our structure. Now, part two is the component. So we've got a structure, but what does it mean? What's actually in here? So that's what we're going to cover now. Like what are the components fundamentally of our structure, which is selling private label products on Amazon. So we've got this base here, this foundation. But what is this? What does this mean? What does this represent? This is just an analogy. We don't actually have a pipe. It's just an analogy. So, well, the first thing here, so if you go to the first chain, the first piece of pipe here in the corner, this might be R&D, right? So this might be research and development. So actually coming out with products that are valuable and do provide value inherently because they are good products and they ideally generate some new value that isn't already in the market. So it actually generates more value, more options, more things like that for people. So we've got that. That might be the first pipe. The second pipe might be your supply chain. So the function in your business that gets this product from idea to actually a fully made manufactured product that's been ordered, that's been produced. You've had quality control, different things I'll talk about later. But basically you've got a piece here of the pipe that gets this product made and shipped out to Amazon. And so now it can actually be delivered to someone if they buy it. The second piece here might be advertising, right? So how do you get people to find your product on Amazon and see the product and actually want to buy the product? So you've got to have a certain structure in place. So once you've been through the R&D to come up with a product, it's been made through the supply chain. Now you've got to advertise it. You've got to get it seen and bought, right? And then you might have to provide some support as well. And then there's some finance, financial structure and the financial mechanism in the business where you get paid and the customer also pays you, and then you can use this money to buy more of this product and repeat the process. But at this point, you actually have a business model. So now you not only have a structure, but you have a specific business model. You know what the structure looks like, what's included, what are the mechanisms, the fundamental functions of the business. So before you can really build a big business and scale a business, you need to be clear on the structure. What does this look like? What are the functions in your business? What is your business model? And this has to be consistent. This has to be in place. First of all, it has to be clear, and it's not something that's changing all the time. Like one problem I see for a lot of sellers is that they don't actually have this clearly laid out, and they're not clear on the flow, like the order in which the value actually runs and what needs to come before the other thing and that kind of thing. And it's just kind of a mess. It's just all over the place. But you've got to have clear structure that doesn't change, every day or every week or every month on a whim because of some new gimmick or opportunity that you saw. This has to be consistent in the first place before you can really optimize this thing and grow a business on top of this structure. So now we're going to get into that more. So part 3 is the design. So we've got a foundation, we've got a structure, we've got some components, clear components that make up the structure and our business model. But the next thing we've got to do is we've got to design this further. So within each function of the business, you've got to know exactly what's happening, what needs to happen, how is this put together in a way that really works for you and financially, but also in terms of efficiency and getting results. You've got to have more of a design, and you have to go more granular on the actual structure. It's not enough just to know high level what the business model is. So we've got this foundation here in place. But what happens here? So what happens within each part of the business? Because essentially we've got a business model, we've got specific functions that make up the business model, which make the value flow and actually generate a sale and a happy customer. And then we rinse, repeat the process. But what happens along the way as the value starts and it flows? What are we doing to get it to proceed into the hands of the customer, make you a profit and things like that? So that's what we're going to cover now. Well, what you've got within each function of the business is you've got systems, right? So the supply chain, for example, is a function. like overall function of the business. You need a supply chain to sell physical products. But within that supply chain, we also have specific systems or specific processes that happen to make this function run. So within the function, we've got specific systems. When they're all running, the entire function runs well. So we might have like 3 systems for supply chain. You'll probably have more, but this is just an example. And these might be things like your RFQ process. So how do you collect quotes, find suppliers, things like that. This could be a PO process. How do you place orders in a structured way with agreements and terms and things? Like really, how do you conduct business with your suppliers professionally to minimize risk, to minimize mistakes, to be taken seriously in the business world, and increase your profitability, profit margin, efficiency, cut lead times. There's a lot of different things within the supply chain that different components that should be running systematically to give you a really healthy and a strong supply chain function, right, in the business. You will have things like inventory planning, which must be a great system that doesn't break, that keeps you stocked up and maximizes or optimizes, I should say, the cash utilization in your business, right? So different things we could go into a lot of detail on, but this is to give you an understanding of the structure here. So same then applies to like the advertising function. You'll have systems like creating and optimizing product listings, PPC processes to run effective paid advertising on Amazon. Support, you might have obviously customer support processes, but with support I really mean things that support the business. So it could be things like review management, responding to reviews, optimizing reviews, maybe even generating more reviews, things like that. And then finance, so payments as an example, accounting, you've got some things you've got to do right with your finances to run a healthy and a strong business. And for R&D, you're going to have, hopefully you should have like a good system for product selection. So you can effectively select and put out great products that produce good value for customers. That's absolutely foundational to the business just logically being successful. If you don't, again, provide value, you don't have a strong R&D function of in the business, you will really struggle to grow a healthy and a profitable, just naturally successful business. Now, I'm just going to switch back to like saying systems here because, this is what I mean with systems, right? But to keep it simple, we'll just say systems. So you understand, what we're talking about, why this is beneath the function. So we've got the different functions and then we've got the different systems. When you've got all the systems that you need, that should lead to the function being very efficient, effective, and healthy and producing good results. And really, ultimately, facilitating the flow of value in your business, right? So you've got the value coming out of your R&D function, and then you need to let this value flow efficiently and effectively all the way into the hands of your customer to generate a happy customer. And obviously, if you want to grow a business, you want to generate a lot of happy customers. So now we have a business model with concrete systems, right? So not only do you have the structure and a business model, you also have concrete systems that you know how to follow. You know exactly what the steps are. You can measure the output, the results that these systems produce. And you've got a really clear structure. Now you've got actually, not just a foundation, you've got some walls built as well. You've got almost a house now. So you must have this in place if you want to stand a chance of scaling your business. If you don't have a clear construction, a clear building, then you're building or trying to scale a business on top of sand, and you'll have issues. And I'll explain how this works here. So let's recap. So at this point, we have a business model with concrete systems. And in other words, you've got a specific way of generating value. So now you know exactly what to do, and your business knows exactly what needs to happen to generate value for one customer, but also for 2 customers, 3 customers, 4 customers, 10, 100, 1,000. Like, it's the same flow, just magnified, right? So a business that's got this structure in place, doing well, with 100 customers, if you do things right, which I'll explain to you now, you should be able to magnify that 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. Because this is, even at a smaller scale with 100 customers, it is, if you've got this clearly laid out, it is a specific way of generating value, and you know exactly what to do. You just need to do more of it. So now we get to part 4, which is the throughput. So now this is when sellers start to get into trouble, right? So most sellers, obviously, first of all, don't even have this here in place. Like, most sellers don't have a foundation. They don't have a clearly laid out business model. They don't have clear functions and clear systems to make each function run. They don't have a specific way of generating value. In other words, that's really clear. But now, if you don't have that, you're definitely going to have issues now. But even if you do have that, you might have issues now. So now I'm really going to show you some critical mistakes and stuff that you must avoid if you want to scale your business. So part 4 is the throughput. So we got this in place, right? But how do we grow the business? So when you have this in place, you want to definitely start growing the business. So let's say you've got this in place with one product. It's going well. That's a great start. But if you want to grow the business, you've got to do some more things. So how do you grow the business? Well, simple. You increase the value produced by the business, right? So you know how you're generating value, but now you just want to, add the scale to it. You want to increase the value produced by the business. So basically what you've got to do is you've got to, I've circled this here. So you've got one product at this point. So if you want to grow the business, you've got to have 2 products eventually, right? You've got to have, so assuming here you've maximized the sale potential, obviously, for the first product. To grow the business, this is all common sense stuff, but I'm just really trying to get this to make sense to you so you can start to see things clearly and, get away from the gimmicks and all the noise. Just, this is how it works. So you've got one product, assuming you've maximized the sales potential or got 80% of the way there, you might add another product and then a third product, right? And each time, if you do this right, you're generating more value in the business for more people. So the business naturally grows because you're increasing the flow of value in the business. So you deliver more great products to more happy customers by doing quality work throughout the value chain, right? It's as simple as that. That's how you grow the business. But now, this is where it gets kind of less straightforward, more complicated, because this all sounds clear and simple enough, right? But there's some big mistakes that I see sellers make. So here's the first one. Basically, you've got this, right? But then you don't add another product. So a lot of sellers, they might have 1 or 2 or 3, even 4 products, and they've got some systems in place, but they're not adding more products. So instead, what they might get sort of caught up in doing is adding systems, right? So instead of adding more products, sticking to a proven, minimalistic formula to launch the product, to get it advertised, to get it selling, supporting it, making it profitable. Instead of, just sticking to a proven minimalistic formula to actually get results and just scaling that up, they start to add more systems. They start to make the business more complicated. And especially in the advertising function of the business. They might start with just a product listing and some PPC, and that's it. And that works well. But then they start to do some social media. They might add like a chat bot. They go into ManyChat and Facebook ads, and they maybe go on Pinterest and do some work there. And they might start to do some YouTube videos, and they just add more systems. So they think that instead of just rinse repeating the same business model at bigger and bigger scale, they have to somehow add more stuff, like add more complexity, add more fancy things like gimmicks into the business, essentially more systems. And you could do this for support and different things. There's maybe a software you want to try out. You add this other tool for finance that should, is supposed to give you some insights and stuff. And before you know it, you've got a really complicated structure, and you've got to stop. Because what happens here, if you do this, if you just, instead of adding more products and scaling what works, when you've got a proven model, instead of just scaling that up, if you just start to overcomplicate the business and just do more and more for each product, so for one product, you're running like all these different things to try to get more sales, you basically will have what I call business number 0. So if you do this very early on, your business is basically just not going to amount to much. Because the thing is, like, when you've got a product to 80% of its potential, let's say on Amazon, and you just start doing more and more things to try to enhance the sales further, like, all these different marketing strategies, for example, then there's a very steep, like, diminishing return curve happening, where each thing you add gets less and less results, if any results. And so if you spend your time, your energy, your resources on this, your business is going to start, working, and then it's just going to flatten out. And all this work you're doing in terms of more and more things for this one product don't have any impact. And that's why the business doesn't really grow. Even if you're doing all this stuff, you're doing a lot of work, doesn't get results. Business just stays the way it is, and eventually actually gets worse and declines, because adding all this work, all these different things, costs money, takes up your time, and it's not a good situation, right? So stop. Once you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 products working, you've got a clear model with clear systems, don't overcomplicate things. Keep it as simple as possible. The fewer systems you need to actually get results, to let the flow of value happen and get a customer, maximize, like get 80% of the market share for your product on Amazon, the potential. Once you want to do that with as little effort, time, energy as possible. And you want to get more with less, because the fewer things you need to get the job done, the faster and the more easy it is going to be for you to scale your business and just add more products. Now, here's another common mistake. So we just covered one mistake, but there's another really big mistake I see as well, which is kind of the opposite of this. So the other mistake, so on the other side of the spectrum, you might have this clean, efficient structure that's minimalistic, gets the job done. Again, you got a product, you are able to, get about 80% of the sales potential for the product as quickly and easily as possible on Amazon. And that's great. But now, instead of just adding more systems and doing more and more stuff for this one product with diminishing returns, and it doesn't really pay off, and your business doesn't really grow, the other thing I see people do is they just strip away like the systems. So they don't really have systems. They just kind of have a way of hustling, right? So this is more not like a lot of gimmicks, but they're just hustling. They're hustling in the business by themselves early on, and they might hustle and add another product and a third product, right? But eventually, if they just keep adding products without any structure, without a clear design for the business, they will start to have issues, right? So like they have issues in the supply chain eventually. Maybe they have a quality issue because they aren't using any system to do quality control, right? Or they don't have a good way to negotiate and improve costs. So they might not, they might have very small margins on their products. They might be overpaying for the products, different things like this. They might run out of inventory because they don't have a good system to manage and plan their inventory levels, right? So these things will definitely start to happen if you just add products and just continue to hustle, because you don't have a structure, and there's no way you can actually scale a big business by yourself without any structure and clear systems and mechanisms to sustain and maintain the business and the flow of value, things will start to break. You might have issues with support. You're not responding to people quickly enough or something like that. You're not managing reviews well, different things like this. And eventually, like, the value becomes bad. So now the value that you might have with your products, or you had with your products, goes sour on you. And essentially, you add less value, right? And then instead of having happy customers, you actually have unhappy customers. And now this is a problem. Like, this is a big issue, right? So if you ignore this issue and you just add another product, stop. This is going to get ugly. And your business, it might start well to begin with. So this is business number one. You might grow and sales might keep increasing and it looks great and everything seems fine. But at some point, you're going to run into serious issues and the business will actually start to decline and implode, essentially, within itself. So it might go well and then something goes wrong, which I've just described, and things go into decline. And essentially things implode on you. And this is not a good thing. So you've got to stop, because this is going to happen eventually if you don't have a structure, if you just keep adding products and hustling. So instead, again, what you've got to do is you've got to have this clear structure and a clear business model, clear functions with clear systems. And that's how you do business. That's your way of doing business, generating value, and yeah, that's how the business works, right? So now you've got something that is proven, that is working, even if it's on a smaller scale at first, and now you can actually scale it up. So you deliver more great products to more happy customers by doing quality work throughout the value chain. So this is the key here, right? You've got to deliver more great products to more happy customers by doing quality work throughout the value chain. So you've got to maintain this quality of work as you do more and more, as you grow the business, as you add more products. The quality must not only remain the same, it must actually increase if you want to scale the business. So now we're on to part 5, which is the maintenance. So you've got this going, but you've also got to make sure this keeps working and it keeps working well. And you've got to maintain the pipe, so to speak, so it doesn't start leaking and breaking on you. So you got this, good. This is a great place to start to get to this point. But now the question becomes, how do we run this business? How do we really run this business and ultimately run it at a larger and larger scale? How do we actually scale this model up? Well, you've got you here, right? So initially, you are the guy, or you're the gal running the business. So this is you. And what you've got to do if you want to really be efficient and effective at running your business is you've got to apply data. You've got to be able to manage the business accurately and objectively. So you've got to have clear data to manage and make decisions from. And you need this before you can really scale the business. So we call this KPIs, key performance indicators. And the way these works is that you want to apply these to the functions. So the systems might have metrics to measure the output, the input, and the results. But you also want to have these bigger metrics, and you only have 7 to 12 of these for the business. And you want to apply these to the functions, so the big stuff in the business. So your supply chain might be measured with, let's say, 2 very clear, well thought out key performance indicators that tell you exactly how the supply chain is working. So these numbers will tell you if you have issues that you need to fix. They will tell you how well things are going and if things are improving, which they should be. And so you do the same thing for the different functions of your business. And you basically have a dashboard for your business to look at every week and make sure the business is running smoothly and you know how it's trending. You know, if you're working on the right things at the right time and things like that. And this is absolutely key, because if you don't have this clarity on your business, if you don't have this clear-cut process to measure the input, the output, the results, what's going on, you know, your finances and everything, and do it in a clear manner with just a handful of metrics instead of like 100, which is not practical. It's analysis paralysis, right? But with a clear dashboard of metrics, when you've got that in place, then you can start to make very good decisions. You can know, again, exactly what's going on, and you can actually scale this up, because you can manage a business with accuracy that's very large when you've got clear data to work from. And you just can't do it without the data, because you don't have the insights necessary to be able to look at the business and understand it very quickly and, again, objectively. Now, you're also obviously going to have profit or loss in the business. So at this stage, you know, you better make sure the business actually is profitable. So the business model is actually profitable and profitable enough so that you can actually scale it up, right? So you've got now data on top of the systems, measuring the functions, and you've got a good amount of profit. So you've got a profitable business model. So again, at this stage, if you do this right, this is how you run the business. So you've got a clear business model with predictable systems being measured objectively with data and producing a profit, which obviously is absolutely key. So very good. You know, this is great. So now we've built a pretty impressive mechanism. You know, now you've really got the things in place that will enable you to go ahead and just, you know, add fuel to the fire and actually grow your business. Now, here's another common scenario, because this, you know, this is unusual. I see very few sellers, very few businesses that actually accomplish this and get to this stage. That's extremely rare. But once you do, you know, that's really when you've got some tremendous potential ahead of you. But this is a common scenario. So this is more common. Like, instead of this, what tends to happen is more like this. So you might have some data, but not all the data you need, right? So you've got some numbers, but you might either have like way too many or too few. And you're not measuring some critical variable, some critical output within your business to give you enough insight to make good decisions. And if this is the case, you're going to miss things. You're going to have problems creep up on you and really bite you in the back and cause issues, instead of detecting them before they become real issues and you can fix them and solve them, right? So that's one big thing. Another big thing is bad systems or broken systems. So if you don't have the data to measure things, and then you've got, you know, bad systems, even bad KPIs, misleading numbers, right? Now that's a very common scenario. You've got some systems going on, but maybe you're missing a few. Some of them are actually really bad. They're not really doing anything or producing good results. Maybe they're even harming the business. You've got some numbers, but not everything. Some of the numbers are actually giving you bad information. You know, this is when you start to get into trouble. And maybe for one function of the business, you don't have any systems, and this function is really, going sour. It's in trouble. It's not really existent in the business. You know, now you're starting to have some really bad problems that are heading your way. And then when that happens, eventually the value goes red. Like, so the value that your business is producing is starting to decline. You have, you know, some issues with your products or your support, and, you know, this whole thing is starting to get bad. Maybe you're even at this point starting to go in the red financially. You're starting to lose money, or you're not really making a profit. And then your customers get unhappy, and you have more bad reviews and issues and things happening with that. Amazon problems, you know, Amazon giving you a hard time because customers are complaining, suspending a listing. And then eventually what happens is that you turn red. Like, you become really pissed off and frustrated and stressed out, and you don't enjoy the business at all. And this is what happens to a lot of sellers when they reach a certain point. So they might be able to get to, 25, 50,000, 100,000 a month, even beyond that. And then they really sort of run into this issue, right? And they can't grow, right? So this is business number one as well. You might grow to a certain point and then it stagnates and you start to actually go into decline. And this is obviously problem, big problem. And the business might, again, turn red, not making money. And if you're not careful, if you don't fix this problem, your business will end. Like your business will die eventually and you will have no business. So that's the sad, true story that happens quite a lot. So instead, you want this, right? So you've got to have the right structure. This is down to some finite detail. You got to pay real close attention to everything and make sure you've got a really clear structure. You're measuring the right things in the right way. Things are profitable. Every part of the value chain is healthy and strong. And that's when you can actually really grow a healthy, successful, and profitable business. Now, so once you've got that in place, the next thing is, and the final thing, the last thing we have to do is to scale things up. So that's part 6, scaling the business up. Now, before I show you how to do that, let's actually start with a common problem, because there's a problem here as well. So you might even get to this point. Great. You might get to this point. This is, less than 1% of sellers. That's very rare. But at this point, you have another problem potentially. And so as you can see here, you just added the 4th product. And maybe you even added the 5th product. But the value hasn't increased, right? So you've got more products. So you've got more value to actually offer, but more value isn't actually coming through this pipe to your customers. So it's actually not, it's not being delivered, right? It's not doing what it's supposed to. The value is there, but it's not getting through. So in this case, the value gets stuck. Let's say you've got 5 products, but you're not able to stay in stock on these products. So you've got a supply chain bottleneck. You've got a supply chain that can't manage 5 products at full scale. So if you're like running out of inventory, you don't have enough cash flow to maintain the growth of all products, you have things like this going on, you've got a bottleneck. Your supply chain isn't actually capable of sustaining 5 products successfully. Same thing might happen with your advertising. You might have 5 products live, but you're only really marketing and generating sales efficiently for 3 of them, right? So you're just not able to do the work for all 5 somehow, and it's a bottleneck. Same might happen with your support systems and even your finance systems, right? Like cash flow, or you're too slow to make the payments or reorder and you lose time and things are breaking and you really have a bottleneck. And you might have a bottleneck, throughout the business like this. And you might be the bottleneck. So this is one of the big things, is that you might actually be the bottleneck in your own business. So the reason everything is not functioning at 100% is because you're doing everything. That's not always the case. Sometimes the bottleneck is due to bad systems or lack of systems, but sometimes it's actually due to you trying to do everything yourself. But in either case, you are experiencing a bottleneck. And this is very common. So I see this almost invariably with sellers when they get to like 100,000 a month to 250,000 a month. So in between 100,000 and 250,000 per month revenue, almost every seller I talk to has a bottleneck like this. And that's why their growth kind of flattens out. And it starts to drive them a little bit mad. It's really frustrating and it's not fun, because you can feel that you have the potential, you want to do more, but you're just not able to do the work. Or you're not able to do it fast enough, I should say. So how do you solve this? So that's the next thing. how to solve bottlenecks. Well, you've got to, before you add more products and try to add more value or deliver more value with the business, you've got to increase the capacity of your business to actually deliver the value, right? So before you add more products, and you need the metrics and you need the structure to be able to effectively do this. You need to understand when it's time not to just add another product, but actually increase the capacity in the business. So you might have to do this in every function of the business. Or sometimes, the supply chain, the advertising, the support mechanism of the business has enough capacity. But like your finance function doesn't have enough capacity. Let's say you don't have enough cash, or you're too slow to make payments and different things. In either case, usually, when you're starting to scale the business, and this is going to happen again and again as you grow more and more, you're going to hit bottlenecks in different functions of the business. So one of these areas is going to experience a limit in capacity. And before you just throw in more products, if you want that to translate into more value being generated, more customers and more revenues and profits for the business, so a bigger business, you've got to make sure the capacity is there. So you do that, and then you add more products, and you get more happy customers, and you grow your profits. And then the other thing, so increasing the capacity here on the functions is a matter of like systemization. First of all, it's a matter of building leverage. It's a matter of having smart systems, highly leverageable systems that enable you to get more with less, essentially. And you can go really far on your own like this. You can, and I've seen many sellers get to, all the way to like 250,000 a month, basically doing everything themselves. But then you've got to have this structure and good systems, right? But at some point, you are no longer enough, right? So, now we've scaled the business quite big. It's going well. You might have more than 5 products, by the way. But at some point, if you've done this right, it's still not enough. So what do you need? Well, you need a team. So instead of you doing everything yourself, you need to start hiring people and building a team. And then you can add more products and you've increased the capacity again. And then you might have another limit in terms of capacity that's not really due to your systems, but it's more due to the amount of people you have, the amount of hours you've got essentially to run these systems in terms of manpower. So you've got to add more people. Then you can add more products. Again, grow the business. And that's how it goes. It's really as simple as that. Right, now I've broken down literally how this all works. How you go from scratch to a model and a system and a predictable chain of events, predictable value chain that you can just grow, and you can scale the business. It's very simple once you understand it, but you've got to know what is included. You've got to know how to set this up and build this step by step, brick by brick, in the first place, and avoid these mistakes, not miss any parts, so you get to the point where you can actually start to grow more quickly and efficiently, and then it becomes exponential, right? So now you've got a clear business model with predictable systems that's producing a profit and being scaled up without limits. So really, when you have the structure, there isn't a limit on how big you can scale. You can just continue to grow. You can continue to do the work and stick to a proven model that works. Excellent. So at this point, you're doing really well. This is really excellent. And this is 0.1 or 0.01% of sellers that ever get to this point. So you're in a completely different league to most sellers out there when you have this kind of structure and this sort of setup in place. And that's how to do this, right? So this is how you get business number 2, and you've got a predictable way, and you've got predictable systems to actually to take you, up and up and up. And again, at some point, it will become exponential because you can just scale and scale and scale, and you've done the work to to build this structure brick by brick, piece by piece, to get to the point where you can just start to throw fuel to the fire and just really grow and scale things up. So that's it. Our work is done. I hope this is giving you some really good insights into how to actually grow your private label business on Amazon, how to actually do it, what is actually involved, just fundamental, logical, common sense business stuff that most sellers completely miss and they're completely blind to. So I hope this presentation has delivered tremendous value to you, and that's it.